Ariana Smith of Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairperson and distinguished delegates, we face today a grim landscape of credible nuclear threats, inadequate negative security assurances, and new nuclear sharing arrangements, all of which threaten already stalled disarmament progress and non-proliferation. My name is Ariana Smith. I am the Executive Director of Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy, and my remarks today are drawn from LCNP's larger paper circulated this week. Since the last review conference 7 years ago, multiple states have exchanged dangerous threats to apply nuclear force. In addition to being outrageously provocative and unwise, nuclear threats are contrary to international law, defy the NPT commitment made to reduce the role of nuclear weapons, and undermine implementation of the long-standing disarmament obligation. Nuclear threats are illegal because any threat to use nuclear weapons is a threat to commit an illegal action. That is so whether the threat is issued by an aggressor or a defender state. As the International Court of Justice explained in its 1996 advisory opinion, if use of a weapon would not meet the requirements of international humanitarian law, the threat of use would be contrary to that law. Most centrally, nuclear weapons cannot meet the requirements of discrimination between military targets and civilian persons and infrastructure, and avoidance of severe damage to the environment. Threats to use nuclear weapons furthermore counteract and weaken existing commitments made by NPT states parties in 2000 to reduce the role for nuclear weapons in security policies, to minimize the risk that these weapons will ever be used, and to engage with all nuclear weapon states in processes leading to the total elimination of their arsenals. These commitments were affirmed in the 2010 Review Conference Action Plan as nuclear weapon states pledged to accelerate concrete progress on nuclear disarmament. Credible threats, particularly in the context of an active war, instead increase the role of nuclear weapons in state policy and decision-making. Threats to use nuclear weapons jeopardize productive processes among nuclear weapon states to fully disarm. Relatedly, the invasion of Ukraine, backed by nuclear threats, has demonstrated the urgent need to strengthen negative security assurances issued in 1995 by the 5 NPT nuclear-armed states and acknowledged by UN Security Council Resolution 984. We call on each nuclear weapon state to promise non-nuclear weapon states not to threaten or to use or threaten to use nuclear weapons against them, and to make this promise unconditionally. Another major obstacle to maintain non-proliferation today is the prospect of expanded nuclear sharing agreements. Russia and Belarus earlier this summer signaled that the two countries are planning a nuclear sharing arrangement similar to that which the United States has with several NATO countries. This is an alarming potential development that should be vigorously criticized by NPT states parties. Failure to collectively condemn Russia-Belarus nuclear sharing as incompatible with the NPT could help set the stage for eventual nuclear sharing arrangements elsewhere in the world. The incompatibility of nuclear sharing with the NPT is based on a straightforward application of NPT Articles 1 and 2. Those articles should be read in light of NPT Review Conference commitments made subsequent to the 1995 decision to indefinitely extend the treaty. Action 1 of the 2010 Action Plan commits all states parties to pursue policies that are fully compatible with the treaty and the objective of achieving a world without nuclear weapons. The 2000 final document reaffirms that strict observance of the treaty remains central to preventing, under any circumstances, the further proliferation of nuclear weapons. Such unequivocal language precludes any viability of the dangerous argument made by some that the NPT would not apply in times of war. NATO nuclear sharing does not justify the establishment of new nuclear sharing arrangements, but NPT states parties must energetically assert the incompatibility of new arrangements with the NPT. States parties should thus strongly express opposition to a Russia-Belarus nuclear sharing arrangement on both policy and legal grounds. They should also call for the termination of NATO nuclear sharing. The landscape today of heightened distrust, a growing nuclear arms race, and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, including credible nuclear threats, underscores the fundamental necessity of nuclear abolition. We again urge the international community to seriously commence multilateral negotiations on the global elimination of nuclear arms in accordance with the nuclear disarmament obligation under the NPT and general international law. The goal will never be achieved if a process to achieve it never really starts. Thank you very much.